Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Daredevil, issue number 604. Okay, so once again, this is one of those comic books that I wound up losing. Or my comic book store didn't get the comic book in. Diamond Distributors really screwed over my comic book store big time and didn't get a lot in. So here's another comic book that I'm getting off of Comixology. Yeah, I spent so much on Comixology, I feel like I should have just got the darn membership. Yeah, like that. Anyway, so reading it digitally, and it is nice, however, to have some of this stuff up on the screen. So Charles Soule, the writer, Mike Henderson, the artist, Matt Mila, the color artist, and VC's Clayton Cowles, the letterer. Awesome, dude. Awesome. I kind of like this. Chris Sprouse, Marty Garcia, the main cover artists. I can see this stuff here. That's really because I got a big desktop. You know what I'm saying? It's awesome. Instead of trying to look and read the little page at 8.5 by 11 or 8 by 11, actually, comic book. Anyhow, so this was an interesting comic book. The beginning and the end were pretty cool. Then the middle happened. I'm going to get to that. So I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end. Go and read the comic book. I was expecting it. I think we were all expecting the ending to happen. No spoilers. Go and buy the comic book if you want to see it. Or at least flip to the back in the comic book store. At least visit the darn comic book store. You know what I'm saying? But the beginning, the priest. Yeah, Devil of Hell's Kitchen, one of my subs pointed out, it's like, oh, he appeared back in issue number 15 of Daredevil. Here they said it was 16. I'm glad it was at least referenced back. I'm happy at that. I'm happy that it was at least referenced back. I love when they reference the older comic books. Jim Zub just contacted me and told me that he was responsible for putting in all of there were like 4 of them in Infinity Countdown Champions issue number 1 of 2, that he actually put them all in because I commented on it. So I imagine that Charles Soule did it here. Sometimes I've talked to Heather Antos before, and she says that it's usually the editor who does it, but it is what it is. Whoever did it, good job. Thank you for putting that in there. I love being able to go back and read a past comic book and find somebody's first appearance or where the story originally took place. I love being able to read the stuff in context. That brings the level of a comic book up like manyfold for me. Doesn't quite save the comic book though. I've never read a good exorcism scene in a comic book, and that's a shame. I get the feeling that Infidel would do a good job with that, but regardless, this wasn't any worse than anyone I've seen before. But it is what it is. So Daredevil, Matt Murdock gets exorcised. Interesting point. Sorry, just as a guy who spent 5 years in the Middle East, mostly in Saudi Arabia, but also a good amount of time in Kuwait and Egypt also. No, he was naming devils' names, and they got to an Arabic name, Shaitan. I'm wondering, why did they choose to use the word Shaitan? And I realized that was a movie. I went and did a quick search. That was actually a movie way back in the day, or a couple years ago, whatever the heck it was. Shaitan actually just means a devil. It doesn't mean a specific name of a devil. Iblis is the name that was looked for. That's Satan translates over to Iblis in Arabic. So just it's a minor thing. It means nothing. What is a major thing to me is that Crusaders were brought into this. This really made the comic book very, very campy. And I've got my own personal opinions on the creators, on the Crusaders. I know that there's the big mythology, and I know that there's a lot of Americans who love the idea of the Crusaders and whatnot. And I hope that nobody equates my disdain for the Crusaders for a disdain for their religion, because the two are not inexorably tied together. You don't have to look at it as being tied like that, like to the hip or anything like that. But the Crusaders were there was not a single Crusader who was ever known for being a great person. None. Like all over the world, they're reviled. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? Even people who are critical of their own, like the Japanese, critical of their samurai to this day, they're still like, but they had a whole lot more honor than the Crusaders. So there's that. They're not like the European Knights back in the day. Regardless, these were not particularly smart Crusaders. Let me get to this before I forgot. There is a very cool moment where Daredevil uses a sword, and Charles Soule is smart enough. He's a great writer, amazing writer, but he's smart enough to realize that there are going to be some people who are going to be upset that he used a sword. But he points out, he's like, he's never really used a sword before, and here, these are undead ninjas, so they're not alive to begin with. You can't kill something, you can't kill a zombie. You know what I'm saying? So fantastic idea, but also he got the sword stuck in a stone, and then he removed the sword from a stone. Not an easy task, I can assure you of that. I've been to many, what do you call it, the Renaissance fairs. I'm from Jersey, man. We got Renaissance fairs all over the place. But this was particularly interesting. It's like, I don't know if it was meant to be, if Charles Soule was putting that in there as a, like, hey, he's technically the mayor of New York, right? So he's in charge. He's brought the New Yorkers together. Maybe, or at least he has the capability of doing that. Maybe. But regardless, I noticed it. I liked it. I likened onto it. It was good stuff. The thing that I didn't like was these Crusaders, though. They're all throughout history. Soule kind of implanted them all throughout history. Whatever. I could honestly care less about that. But more specifically, these guys were stupid. Wearing full plate plus chainmail with jetpacks on the back, with a single engine jetpack on the back with the wings. Look, I don't want to get into the science of things. That alone was kind of silly. But as a guy who spent 6 years in the U.S. Army infantry, I'm telling you right now, it sounded cool when they were like, all right, guys, here's the enemy hand ninja. Formation 9. I'm just like, oh, cool. They've got a formation. Okay, cool. They're on jetpacks. They're aerial assault troops. Okay, so they got some kind of... I didn't see a formation. But what I did see is that they got so close that even though these guys had assault rifles, machine guns, all right, where the maximum effective range of an M16 A1 or A2 rifle is, what, 1,050 feet, something like that, 1,500 feet. I forget what it is. I shot expert regardless. I always shot 36 out of 40 or better. So I always fired expert. And I was a 60 gunner. So I only held an M16 twice a year. And that was when I had to requalify for it, because everybody has to qualify for the 16 or you're out. So anyway, for the sake of conversation, this thing's got a much better effective range than hand crossbows, and I imagine some of them had bows and arrows. You know what I'm saying? So here are these guys doing archery practice, and they're killing some of these knuckleheads in the full plate armor with jetpacks and assault rifles. I was expecting them to pull out a holy hand grenade, for one thing, like Monty Python, man. Thou shalt count to 3, not to 4. And anyway, so yeah, these guys are actually being killed by bows and arrows. Meanwhile, they've got jetpacks and they've got height advantage if they were smart enough to use it. And they it's just so asinine. What is Formation 9? Get close enough to be killed by an arrow? That was just dumb. Like, are you kidding me? You want to talk about being able to perform an effective combat maneuver without a single casualty? That's the way you do it. And these guys were so stupid that they managed to get some people killed. If you lose one person while you've got height advantage, while you've got plane superiority, dude, what are you talking about? They had full air superiority and distance attacks, and yet ninja with bows and arrows and hand crossbows were able to take these guys out. Maybe they were magically amplified. I've never seen that before. And that could have been mentioned if that were the case. No, this was just a bunch of stupid crusaders, modern day crusaders, who got too close to... Oh my God, I'm sorry. That really bugged me. And just, you know what? Somebody who was never in the military who read this would probably just look at it like, okay, cool. So again, I don't hold Charles Soule responsible for writing something stupid. No, but somebody like me who's been in the military, and like, no disrespect to cooks, but like, I wasn't a cook in the military. I was an infantry soldier. You know what I'm saying? And that, I just read that like, are you effing kidding me? Are these guys really that stupid? You might not get that from anybody else. That's totally on me. Anyway, it's like when somebody says over and out in a comic book. Like, over and out means your turn to talk, but I'm not going to be here, so you're talking into the void. That kind of stuff bothers me. It's little things like that. Anyway, that's it for me. It was still a pretty cool comic book, but that, like, literally, even besides the idea that it was a horrible military campaign, like, just silly things happened in this that, like, you have paladins. It's like Dungeons and Dragons all of a sudden. You've got flying paladins showing up. Comic books are also a visual media, so I know that Matt didn't see these guys, you know what I'm saying, with his radar sense or whatever, and maybe it wasn't when he was told about these guys coming in, we ourselves got to see that these Ordo Draconis, the Order of the Dragon guys, these paladins, were able to fly in, and that, like, they're flying. The whole thing is about they were flying, right? So at one point, Matt Murdock goes and asks, Daredevil asks, "Can your guys fly?" And he's like, "Matt, we are dragons." It's like, okay, the rest of us already saw these guys flying, so that's cute, but we already saw them flying. They could have found a different way to show that. Anyway, it was a cute line, but the whole comic book just went really campy in the middle. Again, the beginning was pretty cool. The ending was, oh crap, what's going to happen here? But knowing that these paladins with +5 Holy Avengers are here, dude, I pick up a comic book that says Dungeons and Dragons on it or Pathfinder when I want to read a high fantasy comic book. I don't pick up Daredevil when I want to see, roll 2d20, you got to roll with advantage. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I look for. That's not what I don't come to Daredevil when I want to see high fantasy. So this was especially weird for me. All right, that was enough. Long review about Daredevil. I'm out. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.